All right, we'll get things started. My name's Al Cameron from Curling Canada. To give you just a sense of what's going to happen today, Brendan reached out to us and asked if we could facilitate a way that he would be able to speak to the media, and we were able to make this happen today. I'll make it clear too that we extended this same offer to Darren as well, and he is considering it. And of course, we'll keep you posted if that's going to happen in the near future. But yes, we did make the offer to Darren as well, and if he wants to participate, we'll let you know. Just for the ground rules, we will have 15 minutes with Brendan today. And from that on, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan in a moment. Just to make it clear, please raise your hands with the raise hand icon down at the bottom, reactions, if you have a question. And of course, please keep yourself on mute. So if you could all mute yourselves until you have a question to ask, that would be appreciated. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Brendan. Brendan?
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Al. So I'd like to start with a quick opening statement, as Al mentioned. After the trials, I think every curling team takes some time to look in the mirror and reflect on how best to move forward, both for the second half of the season, but also for the future. And there's never truly a good time to make changes. As skip, I have a responsibility to my team to ensure the right fit and chemistry. And that's my focus moving forward. It was originally felt that using the phrase personal reasons in our press release gave everyone concerned a good explanation for why we were parting ways. I didn't mean any subtext in that. There was no malice or bad intent. It was simply meant to keep all the doors open for all of us moving forward. This is a team sport, and a lot of what makes a great team is that chemistry. And sometimes that's really all it is. I regret, any confusion that was caused by our original statement, which is why I wanted to come out here today and offer some questions, offer some clarity and context. And hopefully we can all continue focusing on the future, what's hopefully a bright future both for us on the ice and also for Darren on the ice. I have a responsibility from here to prepare for the Brier, prepare for the next 5 months, and hopefully for the next 5 years. And I'd like to get the ball moving there in that direction and focus on all the positives we have, both reflecting on the past and all of our great success, but also toward the future. And with that, I'll take some questions.
All right, so we're going to have a question and one follow-up, please. And we'll start with Ted Wyman.
Thanks, Al. Hey, Brendan. Darren used the word cut. And obviously that's different from stepping aside from personal reasons. You have explained that a bit, but can you explain a little bit why you felt you needed to make a change?
Chemistry is a tough one. It really is. And I think anyone that watches sport kind of gets that concept. You join together as a team, you have some success. It feels like you have chemistry. It's not something tangible that you can hold, but it feels like you have it. And then one day you wake up and look in the mirror and you just don't have that chemistry anymore. And it's hard to put your finger on what it is or how you lost it. It's hard to grasp it back. And I think that's really where we landed. It was a team decision. Obviously, as the leader of the team, I was the one to make the final decision and implement that decision. But just felt like we had lost that chemistry and the fit was no longer there. And we felt like for really the best of everyone moving forward, that now is the time to make that hard decision.
Did you have a follow-up, Ted?
As a follow-up, it must be it's a difficult time to be looking for somebody to come in and replace Darren on your team. Do you feel like you're going to be able to find the person that fits this mix in time for you to finish out your season, compete in the Brier, etc.?
Yeah, Ted, that's a great question. There's never a good time to replace a player. And if you rewind history a little bit, Darren joined our team at the same time because we had a player leave our team 5 years ago, right at Christmas. So unfortunately, this is a situation we found ourselves in again. I think we're comfortable with our path forward. I understand, and I think this is hard on all of us. So I understand a lot of the feelings and emotion that have come out of the last couple of days. And I guess I'm looking forward to the path forward. I have nothing here to announce. I'd like to say, the decision we made was not one because we had a player waiting in the wing. So now we're kind of going through that motion, trying to figure out how we can compete the second half of our season. And ultimately, we have such an amazing opportunity. We get to put the Maple Leaf on our backs in Lethbridge in a home province Brier. And that's such an amazing thing to look forward to that I think we all just want to, put the work in now, make some of the tough choices, and hopefully we can come out and have an excellent second half of our season.
Greg Strong, CP.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for the time. I'm wondering, is there full transparency for all players regarding the team's business and financial setup? And do the four main players on your team get an even share of the earnings?
Yes. So unequivocally, yes. All the members of my team always have and always will get an equal share of everything. I've tried to have as much transparency as I can. I also don't really feel like this press availability is to get into the inner workings of Team Bottcher. It's really not to get into the minutia of the conversation we had on Friday. I want to stick to, we put out a press release that unfortunately I feel like was misinterpreted, not with any bad intent on my side, but I feel like that's where we landed. And I definitely wanted to clarify that. And on top of that, I'm looking forward to the future. Darren had 5 amazing seasons with us. We played over 300 games together. We played almost 24 Grand Slams, 5 Briers, a world championship, just to start naming some of the successes we had. And I really want to reflect on that in a positive way. Darren was a critical block on our team, and we don't win a lot of that stuff without him. And for that, I'm very thankful and grateful. And I wish Darren just all the best in the future, whether that's on the ice, off the ice, however he can find that happiness and that sense of accomplishment. I definitely wish him all the best.
Just a quick follow, if I may. Darren said yesterday that, quote, clearly Brendan hates me for some reason. You'd have to ask him why. So, Brendan, did you hate your former teammate? And if so, why?
So absolutely not. I can only tell you my truth. I can tell you that I love all my guys to pieces. And it's hard in the moment, but I loved all the time I spent with Darren, and I'm so grateful that he joined our team. I'm so grateful for all the sacrifice he put in to make it a success. But I also can't dig into why other guys feel a certain way or why they perceive something a certain way. I don't have the context to know where they're coming from. But certainly from my perspective, I don't. I wish him all the very best. And I mean that genuinely, not just from myself, but for all of my guys. I think we really do want Darren to go out there and be successful, just as we want to turn the page here and refocus and be successful for our second half of the season.
Bob Weeks.
Brendan, have you read all the comments that Darren has put up there?
I've read most of them, yes.
Okay, and was there what's your sense of that from what you know of the situation, or your point of the situation, to what he has put up?
This was tough. This decision, there's never a good time, and it's also never going to be easy. And I completely empathize with the fact that there's some emotion involved. And I'd like to say that was mutual. There was emotion involved for all of us. This was tough. I actually care about all these guys a lot. And something that people don't always understand or always reflect on is that, unlike other sports teams, we don't have an owner and we don't have a general manager. And we don't have a back office of media and marketing and legal and communications teams that manage all of this for us. Unfortunately, we're 4 guys that are teammates and try and do all of that other stuff. So sometimes we do the best we can, and there's a little more emotion there on the line that maybe you saw in the last couple days. And I think that's fair. I really do. And I would say all of us have processed the last couple days a little bit differently, but we're looking forward to the future here. I think there's a positive future for all of us. And that's really what I'm trying to focus on here today.
Just to follow up, do you foresee a day when this can be eased, but you and Darren could be friends again? If you're not, I mean, I don't want to read into it. Maybe you're not, you consider yourself still friends, but when this can be patched up?
Absolutely. So it's my full intent. I'm going to see Darren around. I hope I see him out on the ice here. I really do. But I'm going to see him around, and I hope that a period of time will pass and we can sit down and have a coffee or have a beer or even go golfing. The four of us, what we accomplished in half a decade is I just have so many good memories there. And I think there's so much to cherish into the future. And I hope we can all sit down as a team one day and have a drink and really reminisce about all the good moments we had, and kind of put aside, the tough 48 hours maybe we've had here.
Bob Weeks using his Curling Canada Hall of Fame exemption to get 3 questions there, but we'll forgive him. Jason Bell, Winnipeg Free Press.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for this. You mentioned how critical Darren was in your success, and certainly what was accomplished in the bubble, and you finally get over the hump and you win that Brier, and you got an opportunity to win a Maple Leaf, or wear the Maple Leaf, pardon me. But Darren doesn't, and he doesn't get to do that in his hometown. How do you how do you come to terms with that? How do you rationalize all that?
Ultimately, it comes down to that chemistry that I spoke about earlier. We just looked in the mirror and decided that chemistry that we were striving for was just no longer there. And it's really too bad that Darren's not going to be able to have that experience. I think his feelings are justified in that regard. But I really have a responsibility to my guys, on and off the ice, to prepare for the Brier, to prepare for the future, to bring together, that chemistry and fit that we're striving for. And that was why the decision was made. And there was really nothing else to it.
And just a quick follow-up. This is a home Brier for you. Obviously, it's exciting. There's been backlash, that. And do you expect that? Did you expect to be vilified, certainly on social media? And what do you anticipate the reaction may be at home?
I'm focusing on the positives. So I certainly am not either affected positively or negatively by what people say on social media. I think anyone who's anyone gets the full gambit, the full spectrum of comments on social media. So you definitely just can't take those that much to heart. I think just realistically, this was always going to be tough. That was part of the calculus that went into making the decision. And I'm focused on the future. There's no point dwelling on what's happened. I'm happy to sit down with Darren one day and, like I said, have a beer or coffee and hopefully reminisce about all the good times we had. But I also need to focus on the future here. And we have a Brier that we're going back to defend this year in Lethbridge. And I want to put all of my energy into being there and giving that our best chance possible. And hopefully we can be successful again.
Thanks.
So we got time for 3 more people to ask questions. That'll be Cami from Global, Frank Rock, and then Greg Strong. Cami, go ahead.
Hey, Brendan, thanks for doing this. You touched on about half of this in the beginning. I'm just hoping you could expand on not just why it was said in the statement that this was a decision made for personal reasons, but also that Darren would be taking time away from the game.
So I believe our initial press release did use the phrase personal reasons. And as I said at the front, that was not meant with any subtext. It was not meant as a nod to mental health. It was not meant as a nod to something in his personal life. It was meant, from my genuine perspective, to try and keep all of the doors open for us and him as possible. It allowed each of us to, craft the narrative moving forward that we wanted. And I've, to be honest, been a little disappointed that reading through some of the news and some of the posts that have been made, that comment was construed in a negative light or as a slight against mental health. As an athlete that represents Canada and gets to put the Maple Leaf on my back, I think the sport of curling is just starting to come to terms with how to protect people's mental health. And we definitely shouldn't be weaponizing that in any aspect, never mind on social media, where it's far too easy to type out a quick tweet or a quick post and say something that means something a little different than maybe you intended. So that was never my intent, and that's a big part of why I felt compelled to come out here today and clarify that initial response, because that wasn't my intent. It's not productive in any fashion. So I wanted to clarify that really changing the script to be more about that cohesion and that chemistry and that dynamic moving forward. And that ultimately is the truth. I mean, that's why the decision was made. I was hoping personal reasons could be used to allow everyone to go forward. And I apologize for any unintended consequences of that. I think as well, you know, I'm just a curler, right? And I don't have someone telling me what to say and what the implications are going to mean all the time. I'm just trying to go out there and focus my absolute best on being the best I can on the ice. And, you know, maybe I used a couple words there that had an unintended meaning. And hopefully I've clarified that here today.
Sorry, maybe I should have been a little more clear with my question. I was actually kind of wondering about the line leading into it, that he would be taking time away from the game. I think that's where a lot of the maybe what you feel could have been misconstrued came from.
Yeah, so I can apologize for that as well. It was never my intent to shepherd him down a certain path or push him out of the sport. I hope he keeps curling. I want to be very direct about that. I hope he keeps curling. He's an amazing curler, a great teammate. And I think he'll be great on the next team that he plays if he wants to stay on the ice. I think he has a lot of happiness and success in his future.
Great, thanks. And sorry, Al, that wasn't really my follow-up there. If I could just slide in one quick one. I know, Brendan, you said that no one's been named to be added to your team at this point, but are there a couple of people that you guys are kind of identifying early on who you think might be a good fit? Like, how far is that process?
You know, it's only been 48 hours. And I mentioned off the hop, you know, the decision we made was not one because we had a player in the waiting. And that is true. So being true to that process and also being true to finding that chemistry that we're really striving for, I'm going to take the time it needs to vet out a good path forward, not only for the next 5 months, but for the next 4.5 years. And that's going to take a little bit of time. I think we have the luxury in some regard this way. We're not registering a team for playdowns next week. We don't have to go through Northerns and through provincials and that typical run to the Brier. We don't have this year because we're fortunate. We get to put on the maple leaf and defend our title directly at the Brier. So I do have a little bit of time. I will be taking that both to consult with my guys and also to come up with a good path forward that, you know, really focuses on that cohesion and that chemistry that we're trying to build.
Great,
All
thank
right.
you.
We're officially over time, so I'm going to tell Frank and Craig to be very quick with your questions. Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, Brendan, you talked about chemistry and you talked about planning 5 years forward. I'm just wondering, and I think a lot of people are wondering the same thing, why couldn't this not have been held off for a couple of months? Defend your title at the Brier. Let Darren compete in his home province, Brier, basically in his backyard. You would have, and then at the end of a cycle, all the teams are in the blender anyway, so you would have been able to make that change then, and still, you know, not have to deal with what you're having to deal with now.
You know, I think I touched on that earlier. Change is hard. There's never a good time for change. People will likely always be hurt. There will always be emotion as a part of that process. And really, I have a responsibility to the rest of my guys. I remember growing up curling and dreaming about playing at a Brier. That was why I started curling. I remember going out there as a junior curler and practicing and hoping that one day I could be like Randy Furby or like Kevin Martin and make it to a Brier. That was why I was curling. And now we have an opportunity to go to a Brier and put the maple leaf on our back. And that's something I didn't even dream of as a child growing up in curling. And I really feel like I have a responsibility to my guys to find that best chemistry, that best fit for us moving forward. Not only for the next little bit here, not only for our rundown in Lethbridge at the Brier, but also into the future. And I think all those things together factored into the decision.
Quick follow-up, Frank, or no?
Yes, a very quick one. But the bottom line is, though, Brendan, most of the top thirds in the world or in Canada that you might be lining up are going to be playing on teams until after the play downs and after the Brier. So, you know, how can you potentially be finding a person to replace Darren when you may have a different person available in 3 or 4 months from now after the Brier that's not available right now?
I didn't. I think I've been pretty open here that the move for Darren to no longer be with us was not related to a move to bring someone else onto our team. So those two things are completely separate discussions. We sat down and made a decision, and now we're moving on to that second part. It wasn't a connected piece there where I was already shuffling to figuring out who I could get. And then once I knew I had someone, we made the decision the other way. That was not the case. So all I can really focus on here is moving forward. We're in the position we're in now, and I'm going to be, hunting for the best fit and the best chemistry I can find for the next 5 months. And I think we can put together a championship winning team here this year. And I'm really excited what we can do down in Lethbridge.
Okay, we'll go to Greg Strong for our final question.
Brendan, Darren has said that players do not share earnings equally. So since there are differing opinions on that, would you be comfortable with Team Bottcher having its books audited?
I don't want to get into the minutia of either the conversation we had on Friday or the structure of our team. I was asked very bluntly here in this interview whether things on this team were split equally. My answer to that is resoundingly yes. I think if you ask any of my teammates, they would all agree with that. And ultimately, I'm comfortable with that opinion. And that's all I really have to comment on that one.
And you mentioned that you saw some of Darren's comments yesterday. He did say that Coach Don Bartlett, quote, ruined our chemistry, and that he holds you on a pedestal above everyone. Do you feel that's the case? And what's your reaction to that?
Don is one of the most humble and outstanding humans I've truly ever met in my life. I'm grateful that I get to call him a friend off the ice. I truly just can't say enough good things about Don Bartlett. And I think if you'd ask my other teammates, we'd all have such a laundry list of positives that Don's brought to our team. And I really want to highlight, all of those. Don's going to be sticking with us through this and into the Brier down in Lethbridge. And he's going to be a part of that team chemistry that we're trying to build moving forward. And I'm grateful that Don's volunteered really so much of his time to be with us. And I hope he continues to feel happy and fulfilled being with us. And he was a big part of all the success that we've had here in the last couple of years.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Really appreciate you joining us today. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And Brendan, thank you for taking the time as well. And if Darren chooses to go down this route with us, we'll make him available and we'll notify you all of the timing on that. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Excellent.
Brendan.
Thank you.